have over 900 people logged on right now, and it is still rising. So again, if any of your coworkers did not receive the link, please, please, please send them the link. And I am going to say, since I did say shout out to Memorial, shout out to Kennedy, shout out to the Red Raiders, everybody on here. We want to make sure that we give all our schools a little shout out. One thing I will say is that we know that it's going to be different. This is kind of weird having Convocation virtually for me. I always enjoyed going to Convocation and seeing everybody that I hadn't seen all summer. So it's going to be a little different, but it is still going to be a good time. So again, thank you for being here. We will not have the option for the Q&As today. We will have the option of still chatting on the right-hand side. So I see a bunch of chats here. Let's see. Good morning, Norma. Winston Eagles, Raise the Roof, virtually. Nice. And I do know that I did play 80s music, and I know we have some staff members that are a little younger. So with that being said, anytime you want to have some music played, please send me an email. Some of y'all have my cell phone, so send me a text. But I do enjoy 80s music. That's something that I grew up on. So I might be a little biased, but we will probably be hearing more 80s later on today. So good morning again. Still, we will be using the chat. We do have a guest speaker today, and the guest speaker will be virtually talking with us, and so we will be using the chat at that time. So at this time, I am going to turn it over to Kayla Calderon Lugo. Thank you.
All right, can everybody hear me okay? Yes, I see the collective. Yes, good morning, Edgewood ISD. How is everybody doing today? And Olga hit the nail on the head. This is definitely a very different type of convocation. It's incredible that we're able to do this in this way. And I know for me, I personally would love to be at our Fine Arts Theater right now with everybody in there, being able to say hi, being able to high five, to give everybody a hug, to see everybody, because God knows we haven't seen each other in quite some time. And so I know I miss it as well. But I'm so happy that we're able to meet, that we're able to get together, at least virtually, right? And see some wonderful smiling faces here this morning. So welcome everybody to the EISD virtual convocation for the start of the 2020 school year. And it's an amazing, it's been an amazing past several months. It's amazing everything that has gone on since the last time that we were all together back in March. So there's going to be a lot to talk about. There's going to be a lot to do. We're going to make this as fun as possible. But before we get started, we do want to just welcome, and I do want to introduce Father Fidel from St. John Birchman's, who's going to start us off first and foremost with a prayer this morning. So Father Fidel, I turn it over to you.
Can you hear me? Hello there, can you hear me? Can you hear me? You want to raise your hand if you can hear me? So make sure. There we go. So thank you, everybody. Good morning. I send you all the love as you heard it. I'm a people person, so it's difficult for me to be talking to a small screen, but I know you can hear me. So God is wonderful. Very special year. That's why we're going to begin with a prayer. As I invite you to please pause for a moment. Gracious, holy, and powerful God, as we begin this academic year 2020-2021 among the employees of the Edgewood Independent School District, faculty, board members, teachers, assistants, custodians, cafeteria workers, transportation workers, volunteers, and all those involved with the success of the Edgewood District and its students, we are grateful for the gift of life and for the opportunity to serve. We thank you for those who have contributed and sacrificed in making this educational dream a reality. We are grateful for the gift of our children because they are a reminder of your unconditional love. We thank you for those who have walked in the same path and left us the legacy of education. We hope to follow their footprints and carry on the legacy to the new generations. Almighty God, this academic year is unique. We have been devastated by a vicious enemy, COVID-19 coronavirus. We have lost countless family members, friends, relatives, acquaintances, and the citizens of our great nation of the United States of America. Many are still infected and fighting this deadly virus. We are afraid, frightened, scared, and uncertain of the future. We feel like Peter walking on the water at your command, but still doubtful. The storm has shaken us to the core and challenged our most sacred values. May we be strong leaders to our children who are seeking security in their daily lives. We do not know the future. Almighty God, help us to trust in your wisdom and guidance. Do not allow our fear and anxiety to dictate our behavior and attitude toward each other. May we always treasure our mission as educators and live up to our commitment in serving our children and looking after each other as one big family. Allow us not to panic when we encounter adversities and storms this year. Prepare us, Lord, to resist temptations and looking for an easy way out. Instill on us the qualities of leadership so that we may always offer the best to our children this year and continue the legacy of education we have inherited. May we have a wonderful working year and continue to treasure each other as a gift from you. We ask all this in your powerful name. Amen. So thank you again, everybody. I wish you a wonderful year, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Father Fidel, for joining us this morning, and thank you for the prayer and for the blessings for Edgewood ISD, for all of our staff members, and definitely for all of our students as well as we prepare to start this new year. As we're going to continue now, I do want to just say, take a few moments and just flip the switch a little bit. Bienvenidos a todos el día de hoy, bienvenidos a nuestra convocatoria, donde este año se ve un poquito diferente porque estamos teniendo esta reunión de manera virtual, pero sí le queremos dar la bienvenida a todos el día de hoy y también les queremos decir muchas gracias por todo lo que han hecho estos últimos meses desde que empezamos a trabajar de manera virtual. Esto fue empezando en marzo. Así que bienvenidos a todos. Gracias por acompañarnos el día de hoy. Estamos ya emocionados para comenzar este nuevo año, aunque va a ser muy diferente, lo sabemos. Y quisiéramos poder estar juntos, quisiéramos poder abrazarnos, platicar en persona, pero esa es la manera en que lo tenemos que hacer. Así que nuevamente bienvenidos a nuestra familia de Edgewood ISD. Y bueno, para comenzar esta convocatoria, we're going to get things started, this convocation this morning, with just a brief video that I want to play for everybody. So we're going to take just a quick second, and we hope you enjoy the next video that we are going to kick things off with. So Olga, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, I'm just going to pull this up real quick. So give me 1 second. Sorry guys, this is what happens when you go live. I just got to make sure I share my computer audio. So give me 1 second.
Okay, she's there.
Thank you to our PR department for that. We love that video. One thing I do want to say is we need to figure out everybody that is here. So if in the chat, you can just say your name, what campus you're from, and what you teach, because we want to make sure we get all of y'all listed here for this morning. And as of right now, we have 965 attendees. So I'm very happy to be here, Edgewood proud, and I will now turn that over to Ms. Kayla.
Thank you again, Olga. And well, as we saw in the video, I mean, it has been incredible how our staff in Edgewood ISD has just been committed to do what it takes to make sure that the services that we offer in our district continue. So again, we want to say thank you. We know things are looking very different this year, but the commitment is still there from each and every one of us. And so we are ready to get things going. We are ready to start off the year. And so what I want to do now is just introduce our fearless leader, Dr. Eduardo Hernandez, who's going to share with us a little bit more information. And we know that he has been sharing incredible information with us throughout these entire past several months. And I often wonder how often he sleeps. And so I know it's not much, but I do want to say thank you for everything that he has provided with his leadership for us here in Edgewood ISD. So I will now turn things over to Dr. Hernandez.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I hope everyone's got a good start to your day. I have been doing a lot of talking, so I will admit I am going to keep my comments shorter than what you probably think. You know, I took this weekend after I had asked Ms. McCullis to find us someone to lead us in prayer. I took this weekend to really do a lot of reflecting. So some of you who emailed me this weekend, if you didn't get a response, you probably thought, did Dr. H fall off the face of the earth or what? He didn't respond. Well, I have to be honest with you. I was very intentional in not responding this weekend. I needed some time away. I needed to just sit, reflect on today, on Monday, really do a lot of thinking about the people that were coming back into our district formally. Obviously, today is our first formal day back with our teachers. You know, we've had great people in the district today. And if you follow me on Twitter, I made a comment this morning about our PPS folks who work outside in the elements. I thought about that this weekend because obviously it's Texas, it's hot. A lot of our folks are working outside in the sun. And I did a lot of soul thinking, soul searching, reflecting on the work that they contribute. But really my message today is really a really basic one. If you go ahead and set us up, Ms. McCullis. You know, over the last 5 months, we've done obviously our country, our city, our district.
Middle and high schools. If you are needing to still pick up a device for your child, please contact your campus to set up.
All right, there you go. Something I wasn't expecting that. So we just have to keep rolling with things. Let me get Ms. McCullis to set this up. Give me 1 second. There you go. Okay, so, you know, I really did a lot of thinking about what few words I wanted to share with you today. If you go ahead and move us along. And really my message is really simple. And you know, I try to be very consistent with what I say to you guys. You know, helping people and being gracious, I don't know that is something that I would consider as a fad or something that's new. I've always found through different times in my life that being gracious and thinking about other people gets you through just about anything life throws at you. You know, a lot of you, if you've come in my office, I said I always like to do show and tell. I keep a little prop or this little message on my desk, and it says, gratitude turns what we have into enough. Somebody that I know gave this to me, and I've always kept it with me because it's my constant reminder that when life gets difficult or I want to feel bad for myself, I guess I'm human, I still have a lot to be grateful for. You know, I realize God created me in a way to serve other people. You've heard me say that a lot. I believe in that. I think that when we put other people before us, it just allows us to have an inner peace that sometimes we don't realize we really need. And really, my message today is really simple. I know we have, you'll go ahead and go, Ms. McCullis. I know we have our mission, our everyday mission. You'll keep going. Another one. Which you've heard me say that before. We're all about graduating all scholars, college, career, military ready by their expected date of graduation. You can keep going. And over the last 3 years, our journey's taken us, it's been 3 years actually. We're going into our third year. The first year was just about understanding why we do what we do. Why do we serve as educators? Why do we serve as support folks? Why do we serve in whatever role we serve in the district? The second year has been about our story, our why, the details and everything, really learning to tell our own story. And obviously this has been one for the books. This second year has really been one, and I've served now, I'm coming into my 20th year of service. And it's been a very interesting 20 years, but nothing like this year. I've seen teachers do some very incredible things over my career. Not that I'm shocked, but I will say turning on a dime, and when we came back from spring break and answering the call of helping kids it was quality work. I appreciate everything you did. I rarely talk about this team, but the senior leadership team too. I want to thank the members of my team. These men and women have really stood by me this whole time. We have not stopped working. We have kept coming to work. We have been here. These men and women take it home every day. They're creating everything from campaigns to instructional plans to leading principals to working in HR, policing our schools, making sure our buildings look good, acting as thought partners to one another, making sure the finances are there. Every single thing that our folks do has been done with a lot of dedication, at times with personal toll, because what hasn't stopped is life. Life hasn't stopped. And a lot of us have been through all sorts of experiences since this pandemic started. But the journey really has been one that I've been very proud of everybody. And now as we come into year 3, this really is our time. We could sit and wonder about the pandemic and what it's going to do, and I can't answer that for you. What I do know is that our purpose, which you see a picture there, our purpose still hasn't changed. Our purpose is to educate children, to take care of one another, to be gracious. That's what our purpose is. That's why we're all here. And while some of us are, you look to your right, you look to your left. I know of people in the district right now that have suffered because of what's going on. What we can do is pray for them, is have gratitude that they're in our lives. Ask for some level of spirituality for them and wherever they may be at this time, and ask that, we also ask for protection for one another too, because at this point, I know there's fear out there. I get it, and I respect that. But we can't let fear take us away from our purpose. If you'll keep going. So what's the current context of our conversation today? And you've heard me talk about this over and over, so I'm not going to take too long if you'll keep going. Obviously, there's a lot of worry in the district, in the state, in the country. I mean, there's no way of getting around that. And I know there's a lot of parents who are still worried about children. I know personally of parents who have emailed me and said, I pray for all of you every day, for you as the leader, for your team, for the people who come into the district. I'm praying for each one of you because I know this is not easy work. And I don't know about you, but I consider when somebody prays for you as an ultimate act of love. When somebody takes time out of their day to pray and think about you, that's a pretty big deal. And I don't take that for granted if you'll keep going. For me every day, I think about all of you who've demonstrated courage already. Through this journey, through the pandemic, we've had people that have still continued to serve food to our folks, are walking the neighborhoods, whether it be our liaisons, our social workers, whoever's out there, or we have the pop-up serving lines that we do. We're board members. A lot of our board members came in and volunteered their time, or our police officers, or you, members of the school community who have come and supported the work that we do. I know it takes a lot of courage to do that. And I know it takes a lot of dedication. And I believe if there's anything for your spirit, that's spiritual medicine. Because what it does is it allows you to serve someone else who really needs a helping hand. And all of that's going on, and still our purpose remains to serve those kids, to serve our kids. Look at the kids that are in this picture. I mean, think about it. The work that we do, that's not something that a lot of people get an opportunity to serve. And I don't know about you, but I consider it to be an honor to serve the community that we have today. If you'll keep going. So I said I was going to keep my message short today. So you saw this picture last week when we had our town hall, and I really like this picture because I think it's a really good way of showing that, you know, yeah, we can't choose our circumstances, but we can definitely choose how we respond to it. And many of you, as I've said, I've used examples, are responding to it in a way that is extremely admirable. You're still out there helping people. You're still out there taking care of our buildings, our children. You're coming into the district. Some of you say, hey, I'm coming into the district to get my room ready. I need to be able to work in my room and serve my kids. That takes courage. And it takes courage on all sides. I don't want to make anybody feel bad either because your circumstances don't allow you to come in at this time. I value what you do from home. It's still courageous to serve children. That is the work that we've been called to do. And so in one way or another, we're all courageous in the work that we do. And everybody's contribution is meaningful and it's important. So I wanted to say again, thank you. If you'll keep us going. Just because of all the courage that I've seen you guys demonstrate, if you'll keep going. So as I leave you, here's basically what I'm saying. I think gratitude is really the mindset that we need as we move forward. Obviously, there's going to be high days, low days. You're going to be exhausted some days. I get it. You're human. You know, the flesh is weak, as I would hear my pastor say. But the mindset, if you'll keep us moving, the mindset we have is really what is important. You know, we have, like it says here, we have two minds, the one that thinks and the one that feels. And every day I feel gratitude. Every day that I wake up, I know there's purpose for me. And whatever it is, as an educator leader, as a parent, as a son, as a member of the city, I express my gratitude for every opportunity that I get. And so if you'll keep us moving. I said to you on Thursday, you, me, us, we were built for this work. We've been built. This has been coming. It is no coincidence that you're sitting where you are in the district and that you're a member of Edgewood ISD. That is not by accident. Every single one of us have what we need to do the work that is wise, heart work, as I call it, by helping kids, helping your colleagues. We all have it in us to do this. And we can use what we've given, use what's God given to us, and also use what we've intentionally created to help one another. So I thank you as you're out there starting today. I mean, I'm obviously not going to be everywhere with you, but know that I thank every single one of you for taking a step forward and remembering that our children and the work that we need to do for them is the most important thing at this point. And so thank you to all of you, principals, teachers, teacher assistants, custodians, everybody that's out there. I'm going to go ahead and move us along. And so we do have a speaker today. So if you'll recall last year, Libby Spears came to us last year and started having a conversation with us about emotional intelligence, or what we call as EQ. So, you know, I think if there's ever been a time where we need to have discussions around emotionally fit leaders, this is the time. Because there will come a day where some of us are having a bad day and we're going to need to lean on each other. If you remember last week, I played that song, Lean on Me. And a lot of you really enjoyed that song. I know I do. Well, this is the time for that. We're going to learn to lean on each other and learn to ask for help. I hope that many of you will have the courage to ask for help when you need it. And so this is an important conversation that I asked Libby to have. I know she's been working with our principals already on how they lead through this pandemic. And so now I want her to have a few words with our staff on what that means to be a member or someone who contributes. So I'm going to turn it over at this point to Libby. Libby, I think you can hear me. I appreciate you being with us again. But at this point, Dr. H is going to be quiet and be a student because I really enjoy this work. I mean, I really do. And so, Libby, I will hand it over to you.
Good morning. Can you hear me? You can, oh, yay. That's so good. When the technology is working. So it looks like I got on just as you were finishing up your talk for this morning. So I hope that everyone's day is off to a great start. And I was actually looking at that picture from last year and my hair has grown a lot. So maybe that's one of the upsides of the last 5 months is I haven't been to the stylist to get my hair cut. Good morning, everyone. I am so glad to see you. I see a few faces. I know many of you are listening in this morning. And so I will just have to imagine that you are sitting somewhere in a wonderful space and you are doing this work, getting ready to start the school year. And so I am so pleased to get to come and spend this time with you again. Imagine if we had all been together last year at this time and someone had walked into that gorgeous auditorium that we were in and said, everybody get ready because 2020 isn't going to look the way that you think it's going to look. It is going to bring a lot of disruption and uncertainty, and it's going to stretch you in ways both mentally and emotionally that perhaps you have never been stretched before. And so I come into this time with you this morning, number one, just from a place of respect, and even I would go so far as to say a little bit of reverence for this occasion. I want to strike the right tone. You know, the tone last year when we were together in person was one of such joy and celebration. I felt the energy as soon as I walked into the room and saw all of you in the audience celebrating your reunion with each other after having the summer and being reunited. I saw lots of hugging and high fives, and just seeing each other again, I know brought a lot of joy to you. And I hope we can capture that in some way this morning as we are together. Virtual spaces mean that we have to work a little bit harder to have that joy and that energy and that enthusiasm. And I hope that we'll find opportunities to do that together. If you don't already, open the chat function. I'll be asking you to use it this morning as we spend this time together. It is going to be a little bit different than what we did last year. We are going to revisit the what do you bring to the table, which is something that I did with you last year, but I'm also going to add on a couple of things. And unlike a traditional keynote at a convocation, which is often primarily built around the idea of how do we inspire and motivate the audience to go out and start their year off on a high note, today is a little bit different in that I'm using my time with you to really walk you through the methodology that I've been using for myself and my clients over the last 5 months to really manage themselves and lead themselves from a place of purpose, power, and potential. And I'm going to share with you how I did that. And what I hope for you, if I get to set some expectations for your experience, what I hope for you today is that you'll hear something over the next hour and a half to 2 hours that you can put in your pocket and take away and put into motion that will serve you well in the days, weeks, and months to come. So we're not all on video, so you have the benefit of not being seen, but I was cracking up this week as I saw a school district saying that you can't wear pajama pants if you're learning from home. And I thought, oh gosh, how are we going to verify if someone is or is not wearing pajama pants? I am not wearing pajama pants, by the way. I'm wearing yoga pants. So just, I think that will still meet the school district's criteria. But it doesn't matter whether you have on pajama pants, yoga pants, or let's be really honest, no pants. I don't really care. I just want us to be here together in this space where we can collaborate with each other and where we can have some conversations around what's going on with you as you get ready to begin this year. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and start this slideshow. If you will keep your chat function open, I've got my chat function open as well, and that's a beautiful way that we can communicate with each other. I have been doing my job primarily through Zoom for the last 5 months, and I got to tell you, there are some really cool things that we can do in virtual spaces with each other that we can't necessarily do when we're live. And one of them is that you can contribute and talk with me in real time through the chat function. So if you have a question, a comment, something that you want to contribute to this community of learners, use that chat function to add as we're going along. You don't have to wait. You can just do it in real time. So with that in mind, I just want to start us off today. If you have already opened your chat function, and let's just share a few seconds together by adding something that is what I call one great thing. So in the chat function, add one great thing that you can for this group. I'll start. So one great thing for me, and I'm going to pull something from my personal life, is that my soon-to-be senior in college daughter was given an unexpected opportunity last month to take on a full-time job with Nordstrom where she works, which is going to really allow her to get a head start in her career. And as a mom, oh, can you even imagine like how good that feels? So what's one great thing that you can share with this group? I'll pause for a second, open your chat function, and let's see what's going on with you guys. Amazing teammates. Ooh, starting a master's program. Congratulations. New grandma. That's so good. Okay. Oh, another will be a grandma. That one is really good. I love that. Lots of new grandbabies. You guys need to pay attention to this and find out where everybody's registered. Blessed to work at Edgewood, the health of my family, great school. These are coming in so fast. Oh my gosh. Family is healthy. I can't read as fast as you can type, but these are, oh, bought a new home. That's a really good one. I have my family. I think healthy family is certainly one that we're all thinking about. My son starts kindergarten. My oldest sister is a kindergarten teacher. There's nothing better than a kindergarten teacher. Family is healthy, happy to return to work. God is great. Family is healthy, kiddo in college, cook and bake. That's a really good one. When my oldest daughter was home, the first 6 weeks, she did a lot of cooking for us. She's a big cook. Oh, these are all really good. Thank you. I will enjoy watching them as they come in. We're going to get started, and I want to make sure that we get through everything that I've planned for you today. So let's just begin as we move into this time of learning with each other. We're going to begin just with a quick check-in with yourself. So everything we're going to do together today, I want to be very clear. This is essentially the process that I've been using for the last 5 months with my clients. So I'm going to walk you through the process that I teach and now have gotten to put into practice in a way that I never expected because of this moment that we find ourselves in. And so one of the things that I do for myself, and I also do it with my clients, whether we're working one-on-one in a coaching scenario, whether we're online in a group scenario, I've even had some face-to-face over the last 6 weeks, and we just do a self-check-in. So I want you to take a moment and just give yourself the time to clear your head, to free up some mental space, to fully be present for this experience that we're having with each other right now. And because of the environment that we're in, a virtual environment makes that more challenging than when we are face to face. What that means is that you have to make your own commitment. You have to commit to yourself that you're going to be fully present for this experience. Some of what we're going to talk about this morning could potentially be hard for you because we are, as Dr. Hernandez said, we are going to cover some ground around emotional intelligence. And we're going to talk about some of the things that you need to have in place for yourself, a foundation, if you will, to really prepare yourself for what is to come. So as we walk through these exercises and as we cover these different areas of content, if you find yourself at any point needing to do a check-in, just pause for a second and take a deep breath. And so the breathing technique, and there's a lot out there that you can use, but the breathing technique that I teach and that I use in my own life is a 3x3 breathing technique, and it's basically an in breath through the nose for 3, hold for 3, and out through the mouth for 3. And I'm gonna do one so you can see what I'm talking about. And if this feels a little weird to you, I like it. I'm all about feeling a little weird. Okay, so a self check-in and a breathing exercise, you're going to, through the nose, 1, 2, 3, you're gonna hold, 1, 2, 3, and then you're gonna push out through your mouth, 1, 2, 3. And doing it in through the nose and out through the mouth is on purpose, with a purpose. It is a purposeful kind of breathing. I saw someone mention the box breathing. That's where you do a 4x4. That's an in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. You can do that one as well. This is something that you can do in our time together, but it's something you can also do moving forward. If breathing is something that you haven't incorporated over the last 5 months as a way to steady the ship, I want you to add that to your list. I hope some of you are taking notes as we go through this. If you have paper, if you have pen, or if it's something you want to just add to the chat, you can put it into the chat as well. I'm noticing some people are mentioning some of their number one, liking breathing techniques, doing it in your daily yoga practice. This is something you can YouTube, and you can learn a lot about different kinds of breathing techniques. But it's something that I've had to, you're gonna hear me use this term double down today. And double down are those things that we have to double down on during times of disruption and uncertainty in order to stay at baseline. Baseline being where our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health are at their baseline levels, right? We're not up, we're not down, we're at baseline. And a breathing technique is a way that you can do that. So I love that you're using the chat. That's amazing. So before I get into the content, I want to ramp up a little bit. If you will allow me, I want to tell you a little bit about my own personal story of moving into this time that we find ourselves in. So without going too far down the rabbit hole, 2017, 18, and 19 were 3 years that were getting me ready for 2020 in a way that I had no idea. I was undergoing a lot of personal change. I was a soon-to-be empty nester with my kids graduating from high school. And so I was really ready to leave 2019 behind. I was a see you later alligator, after a while crocodile. I am moving into 2020, watch out world, here I come. And I, in my mind, and I think a lot of people felt the same way, that 2020 represented a new decade. And with that came a sense of, imagine the possibilities. This is going to be, in my mind, I thought, this is going to be the best decade of my life. I am going to kill it. And so I went into 2020 thinking, this is the year that a lot of things that I've been working on start to come in to clear focus for me, both personally and professionally. I actually went back into my Facebook timeline to see exactly what were the dates and what was the time between which everything was plugging along, and then the moment of recognition of, oh my gosh, I don't think 2020 is going to be the year that I thought it was. So on March the 7th, that was the last thing that I did before we got on the Corona coaster, if you will. I spoke at a conference here in Dallas for Southwest Airlines. It's an annual conference that they do every year called Hospitality. It's Hospitality, y'all. And I remember thinking, on this day, I am so happy. Life is so good. My daughter was in town. My other daughter came to this event. So we were all together. I had a couple of friends come. And I just remember thinking, like, I am killing 2020. Now, on this day, March the 7th, one of their high-level leaders, who is a personal friend and connection, she kept texting me and saying, I'm sorry, I'm not going to make it for your talk. I'm in and out. We are in important meetings right now trying to figure out what happens to the airline based on this thing called the coronavirus. And so it was just starting to sort of present itself as, oh, this thing is real. And if I go along in my feed, it was between March the 7th and March the 16th, so about 9 days, that this thing became a reality for me. This thing became a reality for me. And if anybody wants to weigh in on what was the reality for them, you are more than welcome to add that to the chat. But I looked back and I sort of giggle at this because at March the 16th, I still in my mind thought that this would be wrapped up in time for my birthday on May the 2nd. So I was planning a birthday party thinking, oh, you know, this will be wrapped up in 30 days. And what I did here is I sort of took what was going on with me and put it into words and what I know about myself during times of disruption and uncertainty. And what I know about me is I have a natural tendency to go into what I call Chicken Little zone. And what Chicken Little zone is essentially for me, it is the sky is falling kind of mindset. So I get very reactive. I become overwhelmed. I start to worst case scenario things and completely forget all the work that I've been doing over the last 20 something years to be the kind of person who can lead from a place of courage and confidence, even when things are hard. And it's interesting because, as I said, 17, 18, and 19 had been preparing the path for me to be able to do 2020 from a place of real intention and integrity. Christy, we have the same birthday. That's amazing. So with that being said, I had to, on this day, I had to do what we call in our house a come to Jesus. So I had to sit down and have a come to Jesus with me, where I had to acknowledge and address the fact that this was not going to be a strategy that would allow me to thrive during this time of uncertainty. Chicken Little is not a winning strategy. And so the first thing I did was breathe. I just did some breathing to try to get myself into a space where I could clear out the anxiety and the stress and the frustration. And please know that over these 9 days, I was waking up every day to an inbox where I had emails from clients saying, we've canceled the event, we've canceled the event, we've canceled the event, cancel, cancel, cancel. And I watched my calendar get wiped out. So I had to take a deep breath, and I had to do the thing that I often find is the way forward, and that was I had to make a list. Now, what's happening to me internally during this time is that when my lizard brain sees me go into a state of stress and anxiety, it comes out from under its rock. And it only comes out during the times where I am most vulnerable. That's when it really does its work, right? It puts on a top hat and some jazz shoes and a little costume, and it comes out from under the rock and it goes, oh, I thought you taught this for a living. Like, I thought this is what you did. Aren't you supposed to be really good at this? And look at you. You are failing. You are completely overwhelmed by your emotions and you're panicking. I had several nights in that first 30 days where I came up straight out of bed in the middle of a dead sleep, not able to breathe, and having all of the signs of what a panic attack looks like, right? And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But that's where my lizard brain really sees it as an opportunity to take me into a space where I am not functioning at my best. I'm just getting barely by. So I made a list. And what I'm going to share with you today is I'm going to share the list of things that I've been teaching for 20 years. I've been practicing for over 20 years. And I had to activate in this moment to see, how do I want to show up for myself, for my family, my friends, my community, and my clients during this time of disruption and uncertainty? And you are probably feeling some of those same things as well. You may have had those moments, whatever words you use to describe yourself during times of stress and anxiety, when we go into that space that we're not staying in a high level of self-awareness, and we actually start to do things that don't work for us, they work against us. So here's what I want to do. This is where we're getting into the classroom space. So in my time with you, I want to talk about some of the work that I've been doing with your district over the last year around emotional intelligence. I want to revisit our time together last summer on what do we bring to the table. And I have 3 volunteers who will be sharing later on their answers to this question. And then I want to introduce you to something I call the C factor. So the C factor is a math equation, essentially, of the things that we need during times of disruption and uncertainty. And through the exploration of these 3 areas, what I want for all of us is to get to a place where we feel purposeful, we feel powerful, and we feel our potential is expanding. And I want to make the argument for all of us that are together today. I want to make the argument that this really is a moment in time that is available to us to expand on excuse me, our purpose, our power, and our potential. So let me operationalize those before we move into the 3 things we're going to look at together this morning. I want you to understand when I talk about these 3 Ps, where I'm coming from. First of all, I use these 3 Ps in my life. I journal around these Ps. I coach around these Ps. I build leadership programming around the idea that really our job is to identify and live our purpose, to understand what authentic power looks like, and to tap into our potential. So when I look at purpose, some of the questions that would come up if I were in conversation with you, I would be looking at things like, what am I meant to learn from this experience? So what is supposed to come out of this? If there is a purpose to this moment, and I have to dig a little bit harder to get there, but what is the purpose of this moment that we find ourselves in? And then the second thing I would ask of you is, how can you bring your own intention and integrity, which is something that comes from within? It is not an external kind of power, it's an internal kind of power, so that I can step into a powerful version of me. So what does it look like for me to show up feeling powerful? How would I walk? How would I talk? How would I speak? How would I behave if I'm leading myself from a place of power? Number 3 is potential, and that is, what is my capacity to learn new things, to grow from the things that I learn, and then to take action to change my outcomes in the future. It looks like we may have a technical issue with Martha. She's not able to hear, and I'm not sure. I know some of you are dealing with the technical side of this, so you may want to help her. So we're going to start with EQ, and we're going to walk through this as sort of the basic foundation of this work. That work is fundamental no matter the job that you do. So as a professional and as an educator, you have to have a strong foundation of emotional intelligence in order to lead yourself from a place of intention and from a place of integrity. So for those of you that have been through some of the training that we did last year on emotional intelligence, you are already familiar with these concepts. And then for the rest of you in the group, I'd be willing to bet that you have had some experience with emotional intelligence in our education world. We refer to this as social emotional intelligence. Same thing. We're essentially looking at your ability to be able to name and differentiate your emotions and the emotions of others, to use that information to guide your thinking and your behavior. Okay, so I'm going to stop down on this for a second, and I want to take about 60 seconds, and I want to acknowledge that the work that has been happening in school districts across the nation over the last 5 years around social emotional intelligence, I want to make an argument that that work was the preparation for this moment. That work was happening. You didn't know it. We didn't know it. But that work was happening in order to get us ready for this moment. So everything that you've been doing in your personal and your professional life, and emotional intelligence, the concept has been around since the 90s, the early 1990s, when it was introduced officially in academe. It's really only started to take root at a bigger level in education over the last 5 years, particularly public education. And now school districts are speaking that language, if you will. So there is an understanding of the importance of social emotional intelligence. And thank goodness that work has been happening, because it has allowed us to be together on this day and this moment, and to tap into some of the things that have already been happening that will help you, will help your faculty and staff, will help your students and their families, your community and your district in the days, the weeks, and the months to come. What I want to do, and how I would like to add to that conversation for you today, is that I want to build on what you already know and what you've already been doing and experiencing. So with that being said, we're going to build a foundation around the idea that your emotional intelligence is the product of 4 things. So number 1, it is the degree to which you stay in self-awareness. So it is your knowledge and understanding of self. The second thing is self-management. So it is, once you have that knowledge, what are the things that you have implemented that you use to manage yourself, particularly during times of stress and anxiety? And then on the other side, if this were a coin, on the other side of that coin is your understanding of others. So who you are in relationship to your colleagues, your peers, your students, their family, your friends, everyone that you're in relationship with. There is a kind of social awareness that you bring to that equation as well. And then last but not least is the social management piece. And so how do you manage relationships with those people that are around you? Now, here's where it becomes so important and fundamental: is emotional intelligence is not who are you when everything is going right. That's not the measure of EQ. The measurement of EQ is who are you when everything is going wrong? Who are you during those times of uncertainty and disruption? How do you show up during those moments? And then to add another layer to that, this isn't even disruption and uncertainty that you chose. You did not choose this disruption and uncertainty. It was foisted upon you. And then to make it even more complicated, not only are you experiencing it, every single person around you is experiencing it. So this is a global emotional intelligence experiment that we find ourselves in right now. We are all impacted by this moment. It is not an individual experience. And the way that you show up for this experience, the way that your next door neighbor shows up for this experience, it may look very different, because the way that we react during times of uncertainty is often quite specific to who we are and our experiences and our background, and our level of emotional intelligence is going to dictate if we lead ourselves with purpose, with power, and with potential, or if we're running around the village with our hair on fire, like Chicken Little saying, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And that is my tendency. So I show up in this time with you today. I'm kind of like the president of the Hair Club for Men. Do you remember that commercial? Those of you that are of a certain age. Do you remember that commercial? The guy would show up on the TV commercial and he would say, I'm not just the president of the Hair Club for Men, I'm a member. Because he had fake hair on his head. He was a member of the president of the Hair Club for Men. And so I come to you not just as an educator who says, hey, I really think this is an important conversation. I come to you as a person who says, look, I have been intentionally practicing these concepts now for decades, starting back as a young, dumb, inexperienced professional, as a teaching assistant, and then as a professor. And I have been practicing this over and over and over again. And yet this moment is a kind of practice for which I don't know if you and I have anything in our past that could even begin to touch what this feels like. And so we're all learning together in this moment. We're all experiencing this together in real time. And who we are in this moment is something that is going to have a profound impact on who we are tomorrow, next week, and next month. So we are writing in real time a playbook for who are we during moments of extreme disruption. Daniel Goleman, if you're not familiar with the origins of emotional intelligence, academically speaking, while he is not the person who is credited with the term emotional intelligence, he is sort of like James Brown. So James Brown's the godfather of soul. I would tell you that Daniel Goleman is the godfather of emotional intelligence. So in terms of reference points, he is who I consider the source material on this topic. And you could spend days and days listening, watching, and reading his work. But I've included here just one thing that I think is so appropriate for us today, and that is that when we look at the markers of people who are not only emotionally intelligent, but have really strong self-management skills, there are some things that we find over and over. And I'm intentionally saying we. And I want to be clear, because what I do for a living is I ask, what does the research say? So I look at the academic research and I say, what does the research say? And then I put it into practice with my clients and the people that I coach. And so I look to find if the people that I work with who have a high level of emotional intelligence, do they do these things? And Daniel Goleman says this is what you want to look for in terms of high EQ and then specifically self-management. Number one, they reflect and they are thoughtful. Number two, they accept uncertainty and change. And number three, they have integrity. Specifically, they can resist the urge to do something that is impulsive that will not serve them in the long term. Now, I want to stop down on this one. Before we move forward, let's use this as a learning community in the chat. Will you please share with me just some of the self-management things that you've been doing over the last 5 months that would fall into one of these categories? So just take a moment. Let's see what we get from our community. What are some of the things that you've been doing for reflection and thoughtfulness? What are some things that you've been doing that would fall into accepting uncertainty and change? And then what have you been doing to stay in integrity? So as you type, I'll stop down on a few. So I'm seeing meditation, journal writing, taking one day and moment at a time, breathing, praying, yoga, reading, going for long drives to self-reflect, making art. I love that one. Daily gratitude, running, gardening. That's a really good one. Prayer and walks alone, hiking. I love that one. Sleeping, riding my bike, walking with my pets, communication with my family, nature walks, choosing to look ahead, dancing. Oh, I like dancing. That's a good one. Reading poetry, getting to know me a little bit better. Eva, I'd love to know more about that. Puzzles. Oh, Mariella, we're a puzzle family, so I'm right there with you. Zumba. I'm not very good at Zumba, but painting, that's a great one. Eating, I like that too. Reading lots of books, having some goals, playing with my kids, rewatching childhood movies with my child, jogging. So you guys keep adding to your chat. I think it's great to see from your community the different ways that people are launching a podcast. Dr. Hernandez, we need to know more about this. Okay. Exercising. I think it's great as a community of learners that we recognize that all of us are doing things in order to stay in this space of emotional intelligence. And I want, as you continue to add to the chat, I want to just editorialize for a second before I move forward. I suspect that through this experience, there have been the exploration of new self-management tools for yourself that either you have gotten away from or you are trying for the first time. So there are things that you have potentially learned. So I noticed Kathleen crocheting. My 19-year-old daughter is really crafty, and she has recently gotten into macrame. She has never done macrame before. I am not a crafty person, and so this is something that is totally from her. And it's nothing she's ever done before. And she has found that it is really restorative for her, and it helps her to stay mindful and to stay present. And so I love this idea that in this moment, we are learning to do self-management in a way that we have gotten away from. Because if we did a poll, a lot of you might have said that previous to, I sort of count March the 12th as the day that this all settled in for me. Previous to March the 12th, I could probably make an argument that I was on autopilot in some ways, right? So the markers of emotional intelligence include these three areas. What I want to do with you is we're going to do a couple of exercises related to emotional intelligence that will not only serve you in this time together, but that you can incorporate into your daily or weekly practices. These are both solo as well as collaborative things that you can do. All right, so the first exercise that we're going to practice is an exercise called Notice, Remember, Action. So notice, remember, action. And this is both a self-awareness and a self-management practice that is packaged in a way that you can incorporate it and bring meaning to the, I would say, sort of abstract notion of awareness plus management. This makes it, I think, tangible. So I'm going to go back to the earlier example that I used for myself. I noticed about 30 days into COVID that I was coming up out of the bed, like coming straight up out of the bed, not pausing, like coming straight up out of the bed, standing and noticing that I couldn't breathe and that I was having the signs of an anxiety or panic attack. So, and it was happening, and here's that's never happened to me in my sleep ever in my life, right? I've never had that experience. So you're obviously going to notice it. I remembered that there are things that I teach people when they move into spaces like this that they can put into practice. And so I remembered, oh, hey, all that stuff that you teach other people, this is your moment to start practicing it at a higher level. And so I had to figure out what is the action step. So how do I move from awareness to management? Because I don't want this to happen again. Obviously, it doesn't feel good. It isn't good for my body and my brain and my spirit to come up out of my bed and have this experience. So I have to do something to take action. Well, my children actually helped me with the action step. They did not know I was coming up out of my bed doing this. I did not share that with them. But one day my daughter Trinity was walking through the living room and I was watching television news. In the history of parenting, I doubt that my children have ever seen me watch the television news. So it sort of like, she noticed it. She was like, okay, what's going on here? And so she said something. She said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm watching the news. I've got to see what's going on. I'm watching the news. And she said, but why? She said, why are you doing that? And I said, because like, I gotta know what's happening. I gotta keep up what's happening, you know? And she could just tell from the way I was saying it that I was in a heightened state of anxiety. And she goes, turn it off. And I was like, what? And she goes, turn it off. And I said, no, Trinity, I've got to pay attention to what's going on. Like, this is real, Trinity. She goes, I know it's real, Mom. She said, but you've never watched the news. She said, you just read the news. You just, and I do. I on purpose have never watched the news other than CBS Sunday Morning, which I don't really consider the news, but it is my favorite television show. That one doesn't count. I don't watch the nightly news. I don't watch the local news. I don't watch the national news. And the reason is because if I need to know it, I will read it online, right? And I was doing a practice that was unusual for me. I had incorporated something into my life that my body and my brain and my spirit, because they're all talking to each other, they were like, what is she doing? And why is this happening? And so I had to, in the action step, I had to turn the TV off and make a commitment to not watch the news. And then I also noticed that I was consuming a lot of social media, more so than what I would typically do. And so I had to also make a commitment to not have as much social media. And then I recommitted in the action step to get back to my morning and end of day practice, which for me is like a read, journal, reflect. And sometimes I'll add a little bit of a meditation or a mindfulness practice. Never happened again. Since then, I have not come up out of my bed, not one time. It's never happened again. So through the notice, remember action, I was able to incorporate both a self-awareness and a self-management practice together that has served me well over the last 5 months. Let's stop down here for a moment, and I want you to chew on this. I'll be patient with you so you can process. But as you're processing and thinking, if you would like to share, if you feel comfortable sharing in the chat, I would love for us to source some other examples of what a notice, remember action might look like for other people as well. So let's pause for a second and see if we can get any of you to share a notice, remember action. You don't have to share if you don't want to, but let's pause for 2 minutes and think on what would a notice, remember action look like for you. And while you do that, I'm going to read the chat. Oh, Grace, I think that's such a good one because that's an insidious thing that can happen and we don't even realize it. So just the noticing is an act of power on your part. So even before you get to remember an action, you've already done something that I think is powerful. Noticing that your body was aching. Yep. And so you were walking every day with your husband. I noticed my body was tired and lethargic. I was eating poorly and not exercising. My action was to take a 75-day challenge. I love that. I noticed, Melissa, true, that's a good one. You were working too much. So you had to set parameters for your day in a virtual learning environment. And you were also noticing the consequence. You were not just tired, but you felt like you were neglecting your family and you were burned out. So you used your digital calendar to give yourself structure. Yes, I can go back to the remember slide, Priscilla. You noticed that you were worried about your family. And I'll make a conscious effort to. I like that. So what I like about this, and you can continue to add to the chat, I love reading these. I'll continue to talk as you're thinking through your notice, remember, action. This is something, and where we become more purposeful and powerful and we start to uncover new potential is when we have strategies in place that we can use every day that will help us to stay in that place of purpose, power, and potential. And so if you can put notice, remember, action into your pocket and use it every day, it can be a way of creating an intentional disruption in your day to sort of realign yourself to your purpose, your power, and your potential. So I hope that you'll use this. And if you're not good at remembering things, so if you are of a certain age like me, then put it on a sticky note and add it to your bathroom mirror, add it to your laptop, and add it to, if you're in the car, you can put it in the car on your, somewhere around your steering wheel, and you can put it on your refrigerator. And what you're doing is you're creating an intentional pathway through which your brain can internalize the notice, remember, action methodology. So it now starts to become second nature to you, right? Valerie, I noticed I was stressed about the entire pandemic. I remembered that humanity has been through this before, so I took the action to read about individual stories who survived. I love that. Leilani, using music to realign yourself can bring a sense of calm. It does depend on the song of choice, but everyone decides what kind of music calms them. And so what works for you, you just go with what works. I love this practice. It is such a simple emotional intelligence practice, but it is something that has served me well. And I do this exercise in every coaching call that I have. I've done more coaching, one-on-one coaching in the last 5 months than I've done in the last 5 years. Number one, I don't actively look for coaching opportunities because we have 2 coaches on our team that take on most of the coaching. But I had a lot of clients reaching out, starting in March saying, hey, I need you. I need some one-on-one. And so I've been doing a lot of coaching, and the notice, remember, action is something that we have been doing in almost all of my coaching calls, and using it for them to pay attention to what's going on in their lives, both personally and professionally. So that's the first EQ activity that I want you to practice. And for those of you that are in the classroom, so for those of you that have students, please note that this is an activity that you can use with your students as well. Can you imagine, was it Kevin that said that, had the comment earlier about therapy? And I really appreciate that. And I also really appreciate some of the feedback that I've seen in the chat. Back to you, Kevin. So my kids have had access to therapy now for many years. And it is because of my own experiences starting therapy after the death of a family member in my mid-20s that I officially started therapy. And I have used therapy as form of my own growth and transformation as a human for over 20 years now. Can you imagine if a kindergartner, a 5-year-old, is taught notice, remember, action at 5 years old? Can you imagine the outcomes that we could create for little people that would serve them at every chapter of their life? So for those of you that are in the classroom, for those of you that work with students, for our counselors, our principals, anyone who is in a position to influence students, you can incorporate notice, remember, action with them as well, so that they can start to feel more powerful in their own lives. The second activity I want to do with you is already familiar to our principals. We did this a couple of weeks ago, and I got a lot of positive feedback from it. And I was asked to bring it in today as well. And so the second activity that we're going to do together today around emotional intelligence is an activity for the Wheel of Emotions. All right, so this is a creative writing tool that is used to help writers expand their language. That's a lot of emotions. I know, Magdalena, and we've probably felt every one of them over the last 5 months. Amen? So, okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you, and you don't have to get through every single one of these, okay? But I want you, don't do it in the chat yet, just do it in your space. I want you to write a sentence for yourself using the primary inner spoke of the wheel. So the primary inner spoke of the wheel, you'll see here. I want you to just take these sentences. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, so get through as many as you can. And then I'm going to have you move on to the next piece of this exercise, but start here. And you don't need to put it in the chat right now, just for your purposes. In a moment, we'll use the chat, but right now, just for your purposes, you're going to write them on your own. And as you do, I'll respond to any chats that are popping up. So there is a site where you can get a physical copy. In fact, if you look online, there are actually some really lovely posters that you can purchase online. They're about $18 to $20. And you can have a beautiful poster version of this in your classroom. So absolutely, you can find it. If you don't find it, just let me know, and afterwards, I'll go pull some links from the ones that we use, and I'll send them on to share with everybody. Laura, that's a big one on the breathing in a shallow way and unintentionally holding your breath. Ugh, that one is big. That one is big. Yeah. I'm going to put the wheel back up in a second. Crystal, the wheel will come back up in just a moment, but for now, I want to just leave this here because I just want you to write sentences around these words. I'll give you 1 more minute. Just get as many sentences as you can. It's okay if you don't get to every one of them, because in a moment I'll have you choose one, all right? All right. I want you to choose one sentence and we're going to work with the wheel of emotions, all right? The concept behind the wheel of emotions in the context of emotional intelligence is that we need to expand our vocabulary around emotions because we have a tendency to reduce almost all emotions down to the inner spoke of the wheel. So when we talk about our emotions, we typically talk about being surprised, something being bad, being fearful, angry, disgusted, sad, or happy. The exercise for an emotional intelligence expansion is that underneath fearful, there's typically something more specific going on. Underneath bad, surprised, happy, etc. So this is finding the nuance of our emotions so that we can better articulate for ourselves and for others what we were really feeling. What I'm going to ask you to do is I want you to take one of your statements. So let's say you choose sad. Let's say you choose the sentence that you wrote around sad. I want you to explore the second and third levels of the wheel of emotions associated with sad and see if you can write a sentence that is a better description of what you were actually feeling. This sentence we are going to add to the chat. So as you get your sentence constructed, put it into the chat. And I want to give you an example. So if you do better when you have examples. So a couple of years ago, I had a woman verbally just lose it on me in the middle of a very busy Starbucks. And I was completely caught off guard. I had never had anyone speak to me that way in a public place. And we knew each other. We were there for a meeting with each other. And when I walked away, I felt really angry. I was not a happy camper that this person had treated me that way. But if I were to take the wheel of emotions, I would actually say it wasn't that I was angry, it was that I was humiliated. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed based on the exchange that we had with each other. So as you're thinking this through, I want you to come up with your sentence and I want you to add it to the chat. There will be a purpose for us putting it into the chat in a moment because we're going to connect it to our next activity. Kevin, you are welcome. Oh, from angry to let down, Melissa. I think that that's powerful. For you guys keep adding to the chat. I want to make a few notations as we are processing through this activity. One thing that if you chose angry as the primary emotion, if you chose that sentence for anger, one thing that you will find sometimes as you're working through the wheel of emotions is that the word that you need actually lives in another one of the categories. So we tend to, as humans, we tend to often lead from anger as a primary emotion when underneath it is actually bad, fearful, disgusted, or sad. So for example, you may find as you're reconstructing your sentence that angry isn't the right word. The right word is stressed and tired, and that lives in the bad category. Or you may find that angry, actually a better one is vulnerable and hurt, and that lives in the sad category. So if you're looking at anger and you're not finding the right word in the wheel of emotions, consider that it is not the primary emotion that you were actually feeling. There was a deeper and more fundamental emotion. Now, I'm watching you add to the chat, and I love this. In a moment, we're going to add our next EQ activity on top of this, and you will be holding space for one another. But before we do that, I want to pause again and say, imagine the kind of world that we could create for our students, for young people, if we equipped them with the language to be able to talk about their emotions and what they are feeling. One of the most profound things, and I've been doing this for decades, I am of a certain age now that I have so much experience in my pocket, and yet I was blown away when I started to learn and understand that when a young person says, I don't feel good, my stomach hurts, I'm sick, that is often because they don't have the language to talk about their emotions and what they're feeling. So my daughter Trinity had a upset stomach all of the time as a little person. She would often complain of her stomach being upset. And through the exploration and willingness as her parent to be able to dig a little bit deeper to try to understand what was going on with her, I was able to uncover that it wasn't that she was sick. It was that she was having some emotions that she didn't have the language to talk about. So she was having trouble at school, a lot of the same, everyday things that kids deal with when they go to school every day. But being able to unpack that for her and give her the language to build that emotional literacy, that vocabulary, helps her to be better in the world today because she can name and articulate what she is feeling. So I want to propose, as you are connecting the dot, not only for yourself and how you can use this in your life, I also want you to consider the power of this exercise that you can bring to students, to those of you that still have kids at home or young adults that you're still raising, because we're still raising them even at 20 and 21 and 22. In some way, we still are doing some parenting. And for those of you that have grandchildren, nieces and nephews, any kid in your life that you have the opportunity to influence, what does the world look like when we give them the language to talk about what they are feeling? By the way, I'm watching your chat and you're still typing. Can I say something? I just want to say this right now. I love TikTok. I just want to take ownership. I love TikTok. I don't know if anybody else is using TikTok as a mental health strategy right now. I pray that it doesn't go away. There's apparently some talk that it's going to go away. I hope it doesn't. And let me tell you why I love it. I love it, number one, because there are some amazing therapists and coaches on TikTok. But here's why I love it. My kids are Gen Z. They are the oldest of this generation. And I get on TikTok and I say this to my girlfriends who have kids my age. These kids are going to save the world. Period. Full stop. These kids are going to save us. They have so much going for them. They have had access to things like what we're talking about today in their classroom because of teachers like you, because of parents who have been doing this work and who have gone to therapy and who have worked on their own stuff. We are raising a generation of kids right now who I am convinced are going to save the world. And when I watch them, I see how tapped in they are to a lot of what we're covering together today. And in some instances, we're kind of catching up to them. In some ways, they're teaching us because they have had an experience of being brought up in a world where therapy is okay, where self-improvement is something that you do. I am flabbergasted by the number of 20-year-olds that I see on TikTok who have read books that I wasn't getting into until I was in my 30s. And so when I do this exercise with you, I do it from the point of saying that we have an obligation not only to ourselves, but to each other to be able to articulate our feelings and our emotions in ways that are meaningful and powerful. So let's take this and let's do the next exercise that goes along with this. So the reason I had you put your sentence into the chat is because you're going to choose someone's sentence and you're going to do a I see you, I hear you, I fill in the blank, all right? So I see you, I hear you, and then you're going to fill in the blank. And I'm giving you some choices. So if you need some help figuring out that third one, but what I want you to do for a moment is I'm gonna ask our leadership team, I want you to put yours in the chat for everybody to see. And then because we want some examples, but for everyone else, what I want you to do is I want you to just private message that person. So you can, in the chat, just talk to one person. So I want you to go scroll up through the chat. I want you to find someone's sentence that resonates with you. And you're gonna send that person an I see you, I hear you, I stand with you, or I support you, or I love you, or I won't forget you. Whatever it is, I want you to do that. You should be able to private message. So where it says to, you should be able to choose someone. And if you can't, that's okay. We'll put it into the, that's fine. Then we'll put it into the general chat. So go scroll up and find someone. And in the general chat, I want you to name that person. So name them. And then we're going to do the I see you, I hear you, I fill in the blank. Olga, wave at me. Are you able to take yourself off of mute?
I am. How are
Hi,
you?
Olga.
Good morning.
So I want you, I'm going to have you do yours out loud.
Already
Right.
on the spot. You're going to put me on the spot and I can myself
So
turning
choose
color.
someone, just go up and choose someone's. And we're going to do a I see you, I hear you, I fill in the blank. And we'll do you. And then Philip, would you be willing to do one for me as well?
Let's see.
Mr. Chavez?
Okay.
All right, y'all choose one.
Trying to
Let's take
unmute
a minute.
myself.
Okay, we'll take a minute and let people add to the chat. And then we're going to
Hold on.
do one together.
I'm not on mute, guys. So Miss Libby, you just want me to pick anyone?
Anyone you want. And we're going to do this exercise.
Okay, let's see. There's a lot of them. I'm trying to scroll through. Let's see. Oh.
So as you continue to add to the chat, and in a minute I'll have Olga and Philip share theirs, what you're doing with one another right now is an exercise called holding space. So you can take the Wheel of Emotions exercise and you can use that to generate the thing for which you need someone to hold space. So let's say, for example, go back to my coming up out of the bed straight as a board, having what feels like a panic attack. I could share with someone and say, I feel really scared and vulnerable right now because something is happening to me that I've never experienced before. And the person that I've invited to be in conversation with me could then reflect back, I see you, I hear you, and you decide whatever it is that you want to add for the third one. What you're doing is an exercise called holding space. And we have a real need for that. When people go to work, we often dismiss the importance of that kind of belongingness that is so essential to the workplace. I don't know if any of you have ever worked with Gallup's 12 questions. It's something that you can Google and you can find, but essentially it's 12 questions that the Gallup organization says must be asked and answered every year with every person in the organization. And these questions are built in order of importance. And the number one question is, someone at work cares about me. So there's someone at work who cares about me. And we know how important that is because when you actually look at the data, about 40% of people who go to work every day feel physically and emotionally isolated in the workplace. So being able to say that I see you, I hear you, I stand with you is a powerful demonstration of an EQ concept called holding space. And you can do this for others. You can actually practice holding space for yourself as well. So holding space is an exercise that is built around both radical presence and radical acceptance. You get rid of all distractions. You are with that person in that moment. You stay out of judgment and you are not compelled to try to fix or solve whatever is going on with them. You can use silence to do some of the heavy lifting, as Susan Scott says in her book, Fierce Conversations. And you can sit with a person through the hard stuff as an expression of true loving kindness. So Olga, were you able to find someone that we could just do, we could see what this looks like in conversation? All right, so let's do yours and then we'll do Philip's.
Okay, so I saw Cristina Valenzuela. So I see you, I hear you, and I understand how you feel with being fearful and anxious about not having control over certain things. So I understand how that can be because I feel like I have to plan everything out. And unfortunately, the times that we're in, things can change 1 minute to the next. So I understand that we're having to allow others to make decisions and trust what they're doing that is going to be in the best interest for everybody.
Thank you, Olga. I know I put you on the spot, but I knew you would be amazing. So that's why I did it. Hello. Philip, how about you? Were you able to find someone that we could do this with?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, I found Lucia Zamora, who was worried about her father during this time. I've lost 2 loved ones this past year, so I completely empathize with her.
Whew. Is that one that requires a breath? These are things, Philip, that we are in a moment in our communities of colleagues and professionals and friends where we are having to hold space in ways that perhaps we've never been called on to hold space for one another before. And thank you both for your willingness to let me put you on the spot. I appreciate that. I knew that you were up to the task, so that's why I was willing to put you on the spot. And I want to encourage all of you to do this exercise for each other in the days, weeks, and months to come. I want to acknowledge that it can be quite awkward to practice this level of vulnerability with each other. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable with your peers and with your colleagues can feel very strange. One of the questions that I use a lot when I'm coaching and speaking and doing the work that I do is, what is the way forward? And I have been trying with intention for over a decade now to Get leaders and professionals to embrace the possibilities that come with vulnerability. It can be very scary to be vulnerable with people that you work with. But what if this is a time where that's a skill set that we learn, and we learn it together? That's one of the other beautiful things, is that a lot of this we can learn with one another together right now. And so if this is an exercise that you can incorporate into your ongoing practices of taking the wheel of emotions to better articulate your feelings, as well as learning how to hold space for one another through I see you, I hear you, I fill in the blank. I think this is also a way that we can expand our emotional intelligence. We can also use it in the classroom for students and for young people to give them the language to be able to talk about what's going on with them and to be able to talk about the hard things. So with that being said, I received this text a couple of, it was probably midweek of last week. So I got this text from one of my best friends. I am not her mom. So she had accidentally texted it to me. But I don't believe that there are accidents. I believe that everything is happening for a reason and for a higher purpose. And I think on some level that she meant to send this text to me. That's what I believe, right? And so I immediately called her. Well, first I texted her back and I said, hey, you sent this to me, not your mom. And she texted back and said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And so then I rang her phone. And she didn't answer. She texted back and said, I can't talk on the phone right now. I'll call you in a minute. And so I waited, and a few minutes later, she called me back. Now, this is my best friend of, I'm 47. This is my best friend of nearly 30 years. So we know everything about each other. We are a trio. There's a third best friend. We call ourselves the Golden Girls. And I know everything about this person. And over 30 years of the three of us, she is the least likely to be vulnerable with us. She is the least likely to be vulnerable with us. She is an educator. All three of us are educators. She is an educator. And she is a person that keeps a lot really close to the vest. She doesn't share. She's not a crier. She's not emotional. And so we get on the phone with each other, and she just opens the floodgates. And she tells me about something that had happened the day before in her personal life that has her just reeling. And she's already in a heightened state of stress and anxiety because of what's going on with COVID and with her job, and just feeling really overwhelmed by it all. So now she has to add on this personal revelation about something in her personal life that just kind of rocked her world. And so I had to hold space for her. And we don't have a lot of experience holding space for her. She's really good at holding space for us, but she rarely asks us to hold space for her. And so she had to be vulnerable enough with me in that moment to allow me to hold space for her in this moment that she needed me. She really operates in the world from a very, I am strong, I am confident, I'll figure it out on my own. She's resilient, she's smart, she's capable. She's all those things that we talk about when we talk about great leadership. But the reality is that those people often need someone to talk to, but they don't feel like they can. They don't feel like they can be vulnerable with each other, because what if I let you look behind the curtain? What if I let you see that this is hard for me? What if I tell you that everything going on in my personal life feels like I'm barely keeping my head above water? And I don't want my colleagues to know that I'm struggling with this. Well, here's the argument I want to make as we wrap up our first topic around emotional intelligence. And the argument that I want to make is that you cannot be an effective leader. You cannot lead yourself, and you cannot lead others if you are not prepared to be vulnerable with others. Now, you don't have to go around and tell everyone your life story. You don't have to be an open book and verbally throw up on every person you meet. Brene Brown says, we share with the people who have earned the right to hear our story. And so I lead from that place. I am vulnerable with the people who I have built trust with, who have shown me care and compassion. And I know that I can trust them to hold space for me and to hold my story and to not go out into the world and tell that story to every person that they encounter. I tell you all this as we wrap up our talk on emotional intelligence, because I suspect that within this call of over 1,000 people, there are people in this group today who need someone to hold space for them. And if you are that person and you have no experience with what that looks like or how that feels, I want to give you a homework assignment to ask yourself, who is someone that has earned the right to hear my story? Who is the person who has shown up for me, who has built trust, that I feel like that I can be vulnerable with them? And then is the action step available for me to reach out and ask them to hold space? My best friend, this text was sent on purpose, with purpose. She just didn't know it, because sometimes things are happening even beyond our own knowledge. And on that day, she needed to have that conversation with me. And if you need to have some kind of a conversation with someone, I hope that our topic on emotional intelligence today has given you some strategies through which you could feel powerful to be able to have those hard conversations. You are going to have students and parents who show up in the days and weeks to come. You're going to have grandparents and community members, people who are feeling all of their feelings and yet may lack the ability to articulate that. They are going to show up and they are going to need you to be able to sit with them and to hold space for them. We cannot do this with our students if we aren't doing it with ourselves. We just can't. We can't ask of our students to be able to practice these emotional intelligence skill sets if we are not doing it ourselves. So you've got to start with you, and these 3 activities are designed to give you the practical entry point into raising your emotional intelligence in a way that it feels intentional. It comes from a place of integrity, and every one of these activities are moving you towards purpose, power, and potential. I guarantee it, because I've been doing it now for decades. With that being said, I'm noticing as we move into our second topic, I'm noticing that some of you are making the offer to hold space for each other, and I really appreciate that, and I want to acknowledge it. So if you want to offer yourself up, I also noticed further up in the chat, someone said if only therapy were affordable. I hear you, and I want to acknowledge that. Number one, if you don't have access to therapy because there is a barrier in front of you that gets in the way of your ability to have access to therapy, give each other access to, at the very least, a listening ear of someone who is willing to practice holding space. So if you don't have access to therapy, what do you have access to? And if you want to, you are more than welcome to reach out to me after our time together today. And I can send you some strategies that I use with my coaching clients that are in many ways as helpful as therapy. So I'm happy to share that after the fact as well. All right, number 2, I have 3 volunteers in a moment, so hopefully you're on deck and ready to go. I don't know if our technical team behind the scenes needs to get them ready to share. But the second thing I wanted to do is I wanted to revisit the question that I asked of you last year when we were all together face to face. So the second thing that I have done over the last 5 months to move myself towards purpose, power, and potential is to continue to remind myself of what do we bring to the table. There are 3 things associated with this, if you will recall. So what do you bring to the table is designed around your ability to answer, who are you, what do you do, and why does it matter? So 3 of your principals worked with me last week to put together how would they answer that question right now. So in this moment, how will we answer this question? And I asked them to do it from the perspective of, this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is why it matters for their individual schools. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my deck so that our volunteers can share their answers to this question. I'll get out of the deck, and I'm going to go back to here. Let's see. Okay, so anything I need to do in terms of getting my volunteers queued up?
Hi, Miss Libby. The only thing is when they start to speak, their faces will come up. They just need to make sure that they unmute themselves.
Okay, perfect. So Dr. Vaughn, why don't you start?
Hoorah, everybody. Mighty Hornets in the house. Let's get started. Good morning, everyone. So briefly, we had 3 questions, and I will go through each of those questions here. Who are we as a campus at E.T. Wren Middle School of Fine and Performing Arts? We are dedicated educators who pride ourselves on empowering scholars through high quality education provided in a safe, nurturing environment. We are united. We are a united family who looks out for one another in and outside of the workplace. We are educators who are committed to igniting the spirit of our students so that they can grow and develop into positive contributors in our society. What do we do as a campus community? As a campus community, we build students holistically so they will be able to contribute and thrive in their own and global world. We help each other grow, and we take time to listen to each other. We value and respect each individual by creating a school climate that is inviting and engaging. We focus on creating a safe, positive learning environment through the establishment of developing a sense of belonging and acceptance. And lastly, why does it matter what we do as a campus community? I said, why does it matter? It matters what we do because we help build a culture that ensures every student has the opportunity and voice to be successful, to live a life full of purpose, and to contribute to their community. Thank you.
I'll do a round of applause since everybody isn't able to be on video. Dr. Vaughn, I feel like I know you just from our experiences over the last year. And so I feel like I already know the answer to this question, but is anything going to get in the way of you and your team getting to this place?
No, ma'am. We're here. We're here to serve and support. And we're excited about this year, and we're loving on all of our Edgewood ISD students. We're ready to go.
I love that. Our next volunteer is Dr. Gavin. So where are you, Dr. Gavin?
I am here.
You're up next. Let's do this.
All right. Okay. Good morning, Edgewood family. Special shout out to the Loma Park Mustangs. Several powerful themes emerged around what Loma brings to the table for who we are, what we do, and why it matters. Things like dedicated, family, we work hard and even harder, long hours. We are role models. We even enjoy friendly competition. We build relationships, produce lifelong learners, establish positive climates, develop critical and independent thinkers, readers, writers, provide quality education, social and emotional support and learning, best practice instruction. We provide safe places to learn, grow, make mistakes, make friends. We partner with parents. We set high expectations. We put our students' needs above our own. Why it matters? Because we care about our children and families. They are the center of what we do. We see our students doing many great things. We're establishing the leaders for tomorrow. It matters because our students don't have multi-million-dollar schools. They don't have nice furniture and state-of-the-art classrooms, though we are getting there. They deserve nothing less. They deserve 100% as a minimum from our staff and teachers every day. It matters because we empower students to pursue their dreams. So taking those themes and building them into an essence here at Loma, we are a proud family of hardworking, dedicated educators. Our kids mean everything to us. We believe in the power to change our scholars' paths, and we stop at nothing to help our students grow, learn, lead, and be happy. Why does this matter? The bottom line is it matters because every kid deserves this. For every student, success in life, Loma proud.
Oh, I love that. I'll give you a round of applause. I love it. I'm getting chill bumps while I'm listening to you, by the way, and I'm also loving watching the chat as your faculty and staff at your respective schools are weighing in on this. We have one more volunteer because 3 is my favorite number. Miss Martinez, are you prepared to go next? You are our last show and tell.
I am prepared. So good morning, Edgewood family. John F. Kennedy is founded on the belief that our purpose is to provide optimal service to our scholars and community. We come together each year as a family of faculty, staff, students, and community members to learn and grow together. We respect and value the unique gifts of each member of the JFK family. We find strength in the various backgrounds and experiences of our staff and stand united here at JFK to provide an exceptional learning experience. As we prepare our scholars for their post-secondary goals, we will continue to build our 3 core values: family, service, respect. We aim to build relationships that foster character, empathy, and compassion. We believe it's integral to develop these relationships based upon open and honest communication, care, credibility, clarity, commitment, and consistency. In this time of uncertainty, we will continue to model and demonstrate respect towards everyone through our actions and our interactions. We will remain united as a family and be supportive of one another, our district, our students, and our community. We will be ready to serve. Why we do what we do. As servant leaders, we serve our school and community every day because we believe in the potential of our scholars. We value gratitude, courage, and kindness so that our scholars develop these attributes to build a strong character. We strive to reach their hearts as it will bring comfort to their mind. We recognize that we are people first, and we need to demonstrate our humanity to our scholars and to one another. Vulnerability builds strength and courage so that we can lead others in our roles as educators. Why does it matter? Collectively, we continue to have the power to influence and impact the future of our youth. Kennedy strong, Edgewood united.
Oh, I love that. Oh, round of applause. Those are awesome. Oh my gosh. I have chill bumps. That is amazing. Thank you so much for being so thoughtful too about your answers to this question. You guys, I at the end of every year, I always make a top 10 moments list. So it's just like my 10 favorite moments of the year. And at the end of 2019, my day with you at Convocation was one of my top 10 moments of 2019. The thing that I loved so much was the level of excitement and enthusiasm in the room that day when everyone was walking in with all of their accoutrements for the contest that you were having, the competition for school spirit. It's hard to capture school spirit in a virtual setting, especially when we don't have the benefit of video. So here's what we're going to do for a moment. In the spirit of these 3 fantastic examples of what do we bring to the table, I want to give all of you a moment in the chat to represent your school. You don't have to work through all 3, but let's just get from the rest of our community, who are we, what do we do, and why does it matter? Tell me your school, and then tell me your answer to that question, what do we bring to the table? Let's just take a minute or 2 and do that in the chat function. Thank you, volunteers. That was awesome. Obviously, my 3 volunteers are very well loved by their faculty and staff, by the way. And while you're thinking, the one that made me laugh is Dr. Vaughn, I think, is in camouflage or fatigues. I don't know if you noticed that, Dr. Vaughn, in the chat, but a couple of people were like, what? I'm going to let you keep adding to the chat. As you do, I want to say a couple of things about this exercise. It's interesting to revisit this a year later. So a year ago, we had no idea what was in store. And here we are. And if you listened to those 3 volunteers share their answer for their school, you noticed that not one of them said, oh, but it's going to be really hard for us to do that. Oh, but I'm not sure we can get there because of COVID. Oh, but there's been so much disruption. Every single one of them are still leading from purpose, power, and potential, even though the conditions are different and things have changed. It doesn't change the possibilities of what you can get to as a school and a district, even when the circumstances are a little bit different than what we're used to. In fact, I would argue that this is a moment where you're going to learn so many new things about you, about your faculty, your staff, your students, your district, and your community, that your answers to what do you bring to the table are going to be that much more powerful based on what you have learned and what you have experienced. So I'm going to let you keep adding to the chat. I don't know about you, but the last 90 minutes or so have flown by, and this is the point where I'm going to start to wrap the meeting, at least my time with you this morning. I really appreciate everything that you've shared, and I've noticed as the comments are flying by in the chat, I'm noticing that many of you are stopping down on the fact that this has been helpful and that you needed this. And that makes me so happy, because not every school district and organization is willing to have these kinds of conversations. And I just want to say, before I move into the last part, a huge thanks to Dr. Hernandez, to Dr. Madkins, to the rest of the leadership team who are courageous enough to talk about these things as an organization, because you know that that is the only way to find the way forward during this time. So the last thing I'm going to do with you is I'm going to offer you up something I call the C factor. And the C factor is a set of practices that I use during times of disruption and uncertainty that will help you to manage yourself, your team, your students, your community, and your district during this hard time. And by the way, it's okay to say this is a hard time. Culturally speaking, we really love positivity. It's actually really far down on my Clifton Strengths. I think it's like number 26 for me. I'm not naturally inclined towards positivity. And so I want to know it's okay to say that this is hard. As long as we bring a level of intention and self-awareness to the way that we are making sense of this is hard, I think is what's more important. And so I'm reminded, I go all the way back to the beginning of our conversation this morning, I'm reminded of my lizard brain who really just wants me to stay stuck in this is hard. Like my friend that I got the text message from, she texted us a couple of weeks ago and said, I'm going to check myself into the mental ward. She said, I'm at the edge. I'm at the edge. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It is what do we do with ourselves when we get to that place? And what I want to leave you with are just what I think 5 things that you can commit to as a district to help you manage through this is hard. And conceptually speaking, for me, these are the organizations that are differentiated around, are we going to just survive or are we going to thrive? That's a totally different mindset. That's a totally different approach to how you do the work. Are we going to be an organization that we just get by and survive, or are we going to be an organization that thrives in this moment? And so this is an intentional way of leading yourself and your district during this time, knowing that there are certain things that organizations do during times of disruption in order to thrive. So the first is that you keep what is essential. So you keep what is necessary and what is essential, but you discard what is no longer needed. And this requires some thoughtfulness and some time. We don't get to do that together today, but this becomes a really nice follow-up homework assignment for your respective schools as you guys are talking about and with each other, what does this school year look like for us? Well, you can do it around this methodology. What do we keep and what are we ready to discard? And then out of that, how are we creating a new world for our students, for our faculty and staff, and for our district as a whole? So here's how I manage that. How do I get to this place called Thrive? So I had, it's sort of the way the world works. I had an amazing opportunity drop into my lap last November with a hospital in Bozeman, Montana, to build a hospitality program for them. I was there for the first piece of that project at the end of February, where I was doing focus groups. And while I was there, this thing called coronavirus was on the radar, and there was a little bit of conversation around it, but not a lot. It just was sort of this thing that was happening in Seattle and New York, but we really didn't know that it was going to impact us in this way. And so we ended up launching that hospitality program in June. And I was surprised. I didn't think that it would get launched. I figured they would hold off on it because of COVID, but they decided to go ahead and launch the program. And I spent about 6 weeks in Bozeman, taking them 2,500 employees. And we were trying to move as many people as we could through a hospitality workshop. And what we started to get back in terms of survey data after people had gone through the workshop was that the 5 categories of hospitality that we put into the program were helping to minimize their stress and anxiety, which I love. And so I'm going to share with you those 5 categories, and I'm going to suggest to you that these are 5 things that we all need during times of disruption and uncertainty. And if you're looking for a way to be able to manage and lead yourself and to manage and lead others, this is a methodology that you can come back to. And the good news is that it all starts with C. Okay, so first is, I gotta move this around a little bit. Okay, here we go. The first one is communication. And this is just, how do we use communication to help everyone feel seen and heard? What are we doing to stay open and transparent? And we listen as much as we talk. In some instances, we actually listen more than we talk. The second category is care and compassion. And these are the things that we do to treat others with dignity and respect. These are conversations around empathy that we have for others. The third is credibility. This is our ability to answer questions, provide information, and this is how people come to trust us. Number 4 is clarity. This is all of the efforts that you're making as a district to minimize confusion, to answer questions as quickly as possible, to provide needed information. And during times of disruption and uncertainty, this one can be really hard to do. And then number 5 is commitment and consistency. And this is saying, no matter what's going on as a district, we are committed to helping you. If you are a faculty member, a staff member, a student, a parent, a grandparent, we are committed to show up for you. And even when things are hard, we will get it done. We will show up for you, and we will bring that level of commitment and consistency to the table. Now, this in and of itself is a much longer conversation, and so I'm giving it to you more as a homework assignment. And what I would tell you to do with your team is, as you're getting back to school and you're meeting as a team, you can use these 5 categories as almost a list to process through and say, okay, are we communicating? Are we showing care and compassion? Do people trust us? Are we reliable and knowledgeable? Are we bringing clarity? And are we all committed to do this every day? So for those of you on the call who are leaders and you're leading these conversations, the C factor is a way that you can do that. So here's how I want to wrap my time with you. I know we've covered a lot of ground, and I appreciate the level of engagement that you've brought to our chat. I want to thank you for that. I want to come back and do kind of a full circle, if you will, and I want us to talk about purpose, power, and potential, because that really is the goal for us, is that we want to lead ourselves from a place where we can find new purpose, we can feel powerful, and we can expand our potential. So what I'll ask of you is, as we are wrapping up our time together, can you in the chat just provide a little bit of feedback around one of these categories that you could share with this community? So a purpose that you've found, something that you've learned from this experience. I start all of my coaching calls now, and I've never done this previous to COVID. I now begin all of my conversations with, what is something that you've learned about yourself this week? And it's open-ended, good, bad, whatever. Just like, what is something that you've learned about yourself? How are you bringing intention and integrity so that you can feel powerful? What potential, what have you learned about yourself over the last 5 months that's uncovered some potential that you have? Let's take a moment in the chat and let's share. I think learning to slow down is an incredible gift. So Leslie, bravo to you, because I think that's a great lesson to learn. Being flexible is also a big one, Goldie. Learning how to teach virtually, I think, is important. I think it's a critical moment in time that the way we conceptualize education is changing, and it feels very uncomfortable for a lot of people, but in the long run, I think we're evolving in a way that is going to make us stronger than ever. I've learned that I'm adaptable. I'm way too good at procrastination. Getting back up and trying again. I've learned that we're in this together, to be accepting of the things I can't control. I'm learning how to be more flexible. And as you're typing, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to try really hard to not put on my mom hat. But what if this was the only way for you to learn this? Like, what if this is a moment that the lessons that will come out of this long term, this was the only way through which we were going to collectively learn these things? This is the mechanism through which we learn. And I understand, and I want to always stay in a place of extreme respect for the real consequences that this has had on people's lives. There has been massive loss of life. There has been long-term health implications for people. And so given the opportunity to go back and have this happen or not happen, I think we would all choose for it to not happen. So I want to be respectful of the fact that this is a hard way to evolve, and I get that. At the same time, I also want to acknowledge, recognize, and understand that this is also a moment in time where good things can come out of this experience as well. And you're seeing that as you watch each other in the chat, and you're seeing that your purpose and your power and your potential can expand even during times of uncertainty. One of the things, so my kids would roll their eyes if they were here right now, but one of the things that I say to them all the time is that the universe is always on time. That's one of my favorite go-to sayings. But I also will say to them that sometimes the only way over it is to go through it. And we're all going through it together, and we're having this experience with one another. And when we have the benefit of some hindsight, we are going to potentially look back and say, there are some amazing things that came out of this. I never imagined Matthew McConaughey to be a role model, but if you actually stop down and spend a little bit of time Googling him beyond his movies and other work as a Hollywood actor, you'll find that he's a pretty smart guy. A lot of people associate him with a bongo drum, but he's actually a pretty smart fella. And when he accepted his Academy Award, he talked about his 15-year-old self, and he tapped into something that's actually a known concept in my world. And I want to wrap up my piece of my time with you around the idea of who will you be in 10 years? So who are you going to be in 10 years? And I loved his answer to the question when he was 15 years old, that his hero was him in 10 years. And so with that being said, who is your future self? And this is a concept that you can Google, the psychology of your future self. It's used in coaching. It's used in communication and leadership training and development. And these pictures that you see are me with you last summer. So last August, this is me hanging out with you. And I look at that and I go, wow, I don't even have to wait 10 years to imagine. I can do it just within 12 months of how much has happened over 12 months. And here we are today, and we are together, and we got to spend this time virtually together in this space to talk about these things and to have these conversations with one another. And I appreciate what you've brought to this and what you've contributed. Just to review, your foundation is emotional intelligence, and your measurement is not who are you in the best of times. The measurement is who will you be in the worst of times. When things are hard, when things are challenging, who will you be in those moments? Number two is, what do you bring to the table is going to help you find your purpose, your power, and your potential. And then number three is the homework assignment. And the homework assignment is, as you move into the coming hours, days, and weeks, to ask yourself, am I showing up for myself and my people through communication, care and compassion, credibility, clarity, commitment, and consistency? And if every single person on this call today will make that commitment, not only will your individual purpose, power, and potential expand, your purpose, power, and potential as a school and as a district will expand as well. I want you on my team. Every single thing that has happened in these last 2 hours today has demonstrated to me that everything I thought about Edgewood last August holds up today, August 2020. And so why don't we, before I hand it over to Dr. Hernandez, why don't we just do one last thing? And in the chat, I want you to say, I want you on my team because. I want you on my team because, and it can be a general, it can also be a specific. So if you'd like to call someone out specifically, feel free to do that. If you'd like to call out your team at school, if you'd like to just talk to the district in general, let's wrap up. We can't do the fun of the competition and the noise and the clapping and the dancing and the music. So this is the best I can do to get you there. I want you on my team because. Dr. Hernandez, how about this? As they're adding to the chat, I'm going to hand the baton off to you. And you can, I don't know who's the official wrap up for today, but we'll watch the chat as people are adding why they want you on their team. And I'll hand it over to you.
There you go. Okay, good morning. Can everybody hear me? Yes? Okay, good. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Libby. Libby, your words, your message is very timely today. I know you know how I feel about this conversation, and I'm very grateful and feel highly blessed that you would spend some of your time with us and all of our folks here in Edgewood. You know, these conversations are really important. As we were having various topics discussed today, I was looking at the chat, and obviously there are many of us who are struggling at times And I'll be the first to say it. I think I said this when I debriefed with the summer school teachers. I'm going to bring you up again, Megan Prado, who's out there somewhere. When I said to you, well, guess what? The superintendent's tired too. I hear you. I admit it. I'm tired too. I mean, I've struggled with being able to turn it off. And so that really started me on my journey of how do I want Convocation to look this year? And I love all the hoorah and the jumping up and down. I think there's definitely a place for it. But this morning, I felt like adding more vocabulary, if you will, to our emotional ability to talk about our emotions is right now is important. And so I'm reading the chat. A lot of you have already sent me messages on Twitter, or some of you have my cell phone, are texting me that you want to keep this going. So Libby, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Libby. And Dr. Matkins is going to follow up with you. I think it is very important that we continue this conversation. So for everybody in the district, I'd like to set something up for us once a month, maybe a couple of hours in the evening, maybe at 6 o'clock. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to set up some dates. Maybe once a month through May of 2021. We could set this up, and then anybody who's interested, it's not mandatory. It's not something you must do. It's simply something I'd like to make available for all of our colleagues, because I know every month is different. Then the holidays come and we have those struggles, and just really having a place where we can come together and get a good message that can maybe send us on our way, or allow us a space where we can talk about how we're feeling emotionally, and there doesn't have to be any shame with that. There is nothing wrong with sharing your emotions. I've tried to be as transparent as I can with mine. I think being a strong, courageous leader requires us to be vulnerable, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so, Libby, I will talk to you off radar. I hope that's something we can get you to do. But again, thank you. Let's all give Libby a round of applause. I know everybody that isn't on here is out there, or maybe you'll send it on the chat. But thank you. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Calderon Lugo, and she's going to keep us going. So, Kayla.
All right, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay. Thank you all. So, Libby, once again, we want to say thank you. It was really incredible, and it was very powerful. I just want to share that to hear everybody talk about their feelings, you know, feeling overwhelmed, fearful, anxious, hungry, you know, whatever that feeling was, and to know that, you know, there's unity in those feelings too. I mean, we weren't, you know, I'm not the only one who's feeling overwhelmed. I'm not the only one who's feeling scared. And to see so many people sharing and knowing that we are in this together and we are going through these feelings together. And so it's not just me as an individual, but I can count on some of my colleagues and some of my peers to say, hey, I'm feeling this way, and let's work through this together. But at the same time, while we're experiencing those feelings and sharing those feelings, you know, the lessons that we're learning by feeling what we're feeling. You know, what is it that we're learning? What is it that we're gaining? What is it that we're meant to take away from this? So there's also a lot of learning taking place. And, you know, Dr. Hernandez has often mentioned, since he's been on board, all of us never stop learning. So even us as his team, even us as, you know, as our principals, you see they are on board to continue to learn. So just to set that example as well, and to be able to share what we've seen this morning has just been absolutely incredible. So again, Libby, we thank you for your insights. We thank you for everything you have brought to the table today. And I know we're heartbroken that we can't have that dance off like we did last year.
No.
Which I know was absolutely fantastic, but you're going to stick around for some fun. We're going to have some virtual fun this morning as well. So before we get to the fun and to the activities, I do want to just take a brief moment, because I know that there's new staff members in Edgewood ISD who are joining us for the first time. So number one, welcome to this virtual convocation. We hope you've enjoyed your morning so far. And because we do have some staff members, I do want to just take a minute and introduce all of our principals this morning who are joining us. So that way, staff, as you get to see and become much more familiar with these faces, you know exactly who they are. I also want to take a moment to introduce our senior leadership team. And so I'm going to take a quick moment. And then principals and senior leadership team, make sure that you unmute your mic when we call your name, so you can give give a brief introduction. So I'm going to go ahead and just quickly start with our principals who are here, and we're going to go ahead and start with Miss Tracy Tilbane, who is the principal at Stafford ECC. Just waving hi there. Make sure you unmute. There it goes. Okay. All right. Well, hello to Miss Tracy Tilbane.
Hello.
We also have Miss Claudia Barrios, who's the principal at Cárdenas ECC. I don't see her, but I think she's here. Our elementary principals, I'm going to start. We're not going in alphabetical order anyway. I'm just calling them out loud. Miss Kristen Willman, our principal at our Gardendale Early Learning Program. We have our principal at Henry B. Gonzalez, Miss Samantha Gonzalez. That's okay. You can at least wave hi if you're having technical difficulties.
Hi, everyone.
That's okay. Our principal at Las Palmas Leadership School for Girls, Miss Monica Munoz. Yay!
Hello, Edward. Las Palmas.
Love the background. We have our principal at Loma Park, Dr. Courtney Gavin, who we heard earlier today. Good morning, Dr. Gavin.
Morning.
We have our principal at LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson Elementary School, Miss Ellie Gearhart.
Go Bobcats.
We also have our principal at Perales, Miss Teresa Silva. Yay, with the birds. Our principal at Roosevelt Elementary School, Dr. Patricia Ortiz. I don't see her, but I know she's on here somewhere. And then we also have our principal at Roy Cisneros, Dr. Jennifer Herrera.
Good morning, everybody. Want to
There she
welcome
is.
back
Hi,
our
Dr. Herrera.
Mustang.
Good
We're
morning.
excited to welcome
We
back
have our
our
principal
students.
at Winston Elementary, Miss Claudia Sanchez.
There you go.
Yay, love the pom-poms, the team. And then we have our middle school principals as well. Our Brentwood STEAM School of Innovation principal, Miss Eva Reyna. Miss Reyna, I know I saw you earlier. I know you're here. We have our principal at Gus Garcia University School, Mr. Christopher Bland.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
There he is. I see you. And then we have Dr. Timothy Vaughn, who we heard from earlier as well. We have from Wren Middle School.
Good morning, Hornet family. Good morning, everybody.
I think I skipped, going back to the elementary schools, I'm going through my list. I skipped Stafford Elementary School. So Stephanie Cruz at Stafford Elementary School. Welcome to Edgewood ISD.
Hey, Stafford.
Yay, there you are. Hi.
Stafford strong.
And then we go to our high schools. We have Miss Graciela Martinez from Kennedy High School. I almost said Dr. Martinez.
Good
Almost.
morning, Rockets. Good morning, Edgewood family.
We have Dr. Tanya Loyola at Memorial High School. Where is she? I know I saw her also.
Oh, there she is.
There, yeah, with your team. And then we have our principal at our Fine Arts Academy, Mr. Daniel Pina.
Morning, everyone.
So ladies and gentlemen, those are our principals in Edgewood ISD. I also want to take a brief moment. Yes, a big round of applause to our principals. Have done amazing work, amazing work since March and since all of this started. And so a big applause to all of our principals. And now I want to take a brief moment, and now we're going to put our senior leadership team on the spot. And yeah, we saw the principals bring, we saw the principals with pom-poms and clappers. So I don't know, SLT, what you're going to have, but you know. So we're going to go ahead and start again. We see him all the time. He is our fearless leader. Dr. Hernandez, he is our superintendent, our leader.
What a duck.
Who's showing off a duck. We thank you so much, Dr. Hernandez, for everything you have done, not only since you've come on board, but since COVID started, and you've just gotten us through this. So thank you so much. We also have Mr. Philip Chavez, our deputy superintendent.
Morning, Edgewood family.
There you are with that fabulous background, Mr. Chavez. I want to introduce Ms. Mirna Martinez, our chief of staff. Wearing that wonderful yellow
Good to have
blazer.
everybody back.
We can't hear you, so that's just the only thing. Make sure if you're going to say something that that your mic is unmuted. Dr. Kimberly Gilmore Matkins, who is our assistant superintendent of school leadership. I see the clappers. We have Miss Angela Dominguez, Assistant Superintendent of Academics. I know I saw her earlier. I know I saw her. I don't see her now. Miss Teresa Salinas, Chief of Schools for our STEAM zone.
Good morning,
Where
Edgewood
are you, Miss
family.
Salinas? I know I saw you. There you are, looking good. Yay!
Being
We have
good.
Mr. Travis McElvain, Chief of Schools for our Public Service Zone.
Morning, Edgewood.
There he is. Oh, there he is.
We have Mr. Christopher Nestor. He is our Chief of Technology and Innovation Officer. Also a gentleman who never sleeps. I think he's on the call. Okay, that's okay. Miss Olga Makulis, who always puts these meetings together and just does it so fabulously. Olga, thank you so much. She is our Executive Director of Industry and Community Partnerships, excuse me. Mr. Elvis Williams, our Chief of Operations. Mr. Williams, I know I saw you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Where is he? Oh, there you are. Hi, Mr. Williams. Hey, that's his prop. The phone is the prop. That's right. We live with that phone by our hands. That's right. We have Miss Cynthia Trevino, our Chief of Human Resources and Student Support Services.
Morning, Edgewood. Good morning.
There you are. You can't hide, Miss Trevino. We're going to put you on camera.
Right here.
We're going to get you on camera. We have our Chief of Police, Mr. Jesse Quiroga, and the incredible work that our EISD Police Department does. Where are you, Chief? I don't see him, but I know he's there. I saw him earlier. There you are.
Good morning.
And then I am your Public Information Officer for Edgewood ISD. My name is Kayla Calderon Lugo, and I work in the Office of Communications. Yay. All right, so now the introductions are done, and now we're going to get to a little bit of fun before we call it a day. And so I know we can't dance on stage. I know we can't show our pom-poms. I know we can't do any of that kind of stuff. But what we're going to do this morning is one thing that we noticed was a really big hit last year was our winning wheel. I don't know how many of you remember the winning wheel. And so what we have now is our winning wheel. And so Olga's slowly bringing it up. But we have our winning wheel. And so what we're going to do is we're going to spin the wheel today virtually. But we're going to spin the wheel today, and we're going to see who's going to walk away with some Edgewood swag. So as soon as Olga brings up the wheel, who we're having technical difficulties, but that's okay because that happens when you're live. We're going to spin our virtual wheel, and we saw the wheel earlier, our wheel of emotions. Now we're going to go to our winning wheel today, who's going to take home some Edgewood goodies. Uh-oh. I can't hear anybody. I know I can't hear. Oh, there you are. Okay. So we're having some technical difficulties. She's getting ready. Miss Magdalena, you volunteer to be the first winner. Okay, we'll make note of that.
Okay.
All right. So can everybody see the winning wheel now? See it? All right. Let's spin the wheel. You're our first winning wheel winner. Congratulations, HBG. You are winners of some Edgewood swag that will be delivered to your campus. So stay tuned. All right, let's spin again. We're going to spin 3 times this morning. All right, so let's see who else is going to walk away with Edgewood swag. Stafford Elementary. Congratulations, Stafford. All right, here's our third spin, third and final spin. All right, third and final spin. Here we go, spin the wheel. Lucky 7. Oh, no, not a 7, sorry. It's not, I know, it's not that kind of spinning. Oh. All right, Roosevelt Elementary School. Our 3 elementary schools win this morning. So congratulations to HBG, Stafford, and Roosevelt Elementary School. You have won some Edgewood swag that will be coming to your campus shortly. So congratulations to you all, and thank you for playing. And because the winning wheel has been such a success, we're going to keep it going for next year's convocation, which of course we have no idea what it's going to look like, but we know that the winning wheel is going to be there. So thank you all for that. The last thing I want to do before we close out this morning is I just want to play a brief video for you that we have prepared this morning just to close out the day and just to let everybody know that we are so proud to be in Edgewood ISD. So we'll give Olga another quick second to bring up that last video. Okay, we're gonna try it one more time because I don't think everybody saw it. And I think that's the other thing too, our technical devices, our Wi-Fi lines, everything being tested with everybody being on, so. I know Miss Dorothy Castillo, but I didn't spin the wheel. It was a virtual spin. We'll try it again next year. Go for it. All right, well, I hope you were able to see the video okay. Please know these videos are gonna live on our website. So if you didn't get to see them in their entirety right now, or you had some type of glitch or technical issues with them, they are gonna live on our website. And so thank you to the communications team who put these videos together. Miss Yvonne, we appreciate it. And so those are gonna live on our website. And so as far as I'm concerned, ladies and gentlemen, this is all for my part this morning. Thank you all for your participation. Thank you for your willingness. Miss Libby, again, thank you for joining us again this morning. And we look forward to our monthly check-ins with you, Libby. I can't wait. And so thank you, Edgewood ISD. We are a team. We are Edgewood United. Y'all have a great year. Miss Olga, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Edgewood ISD. I hope you enjoyed today. We know it was very different. I really wish I could see everybody and give everybody, obviously we can't give hugs, but virtual hugs for today. One thing, people have been asking for the handout of the presentation. So Miss Libby did share in the comment section her handout there. So if you want to go ahead and download those, grab those. Videos will also, I had a couple of emails of people wanting to go back and see the video that was done today. So this recording, this video is being recorded. So I will share with you all that link to that video once we get it download. I do appreciate everybody on here again. It's exciting year. We know things are different. But as Edgewood always does, we always push forward. We always make it work. So we're going to be here for our kids. We're going to be here for our families. We're going to be here for our students. And most importantly, we're going to be here for each other. We are family. That's the one big thing that anybody has ever asked me is, what do you love about Edgewood? We are family. So I'm going to play some music. I'm going to keep. Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Kim would like to say, oh, hold on. Okay, so we are going to take teacher attendance in Teams for this afternoon for teachers to sign in. I also make sure that, I know a couple people logged in a little later. I did ask if you could put your campus and name in the chat box because I will be downloading those to make sure we have everybody on. I see we have over 1,000 participants. I'm going to keep the chat up. So I know that there was some links on the right-hand side. Libby's presentation is linked. That way y'all can download it because if I end it now, it's gonna take everything off. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave that on. I'm gonna play some music and this year is going to be an amazing year. Regardless of the circumstances, it is going to be amazing. So I want to say that I love you all very, very much. And I'm going to go ahead and stop talking so y'all can hear some music now.